And so I'm down here by my old neighborhood, and I'm wondering, why doesn't Gateway Green or Chicago Care or Friends of the Park initiate some neighborhood care programs? Truly, going in and like McGruff Crime Watch and the Neighborhood Watch program, well, they can integrate with Neighborhood Crime Watch programs, Citizen Watch programs that we call the police. Because my neighborhood used to be a lot nicer. I grew up here. And people cut the grass, they de-weed it. They did. They de-weed it. They took pride. I grew up with the little white picket fences they put around the lawn. Don't walk on the lawn. You know, and people used to be more prideful. Where is the neighborhood pride? Where is the civic pride? Truly, the civic pride, the neighborhood pride. One neighbor picking up the neighborhood and the other neighbor and the other neighbor. And all of a sudden, really positive things are happening in the neighborhood. I mean, I don't get it. And then they took away the playground. This is ridiculous. I mean, look at this old house. It says for rent. Maybe condemned. So, again, here's a house for rent. There's lots of opportunity to initiate a neighborhood beautification program. Like my brother Carl can come in here. He used to live here and do rebuilding. And I would want to reclaim the park. I want to get rid of this and reclaim the playground. Truly, I would reinforce the building and put a few more floors on the school and free up the park so the kids can play. You know how much fun we had? We had a field house. We had an ice arena. We played baseball. We had a basketball league. We had softball leagues. We had all kinds of activity in the park. They took away the whole freaking park. Now, there's a gym in Patrick Henry, and I don't know if they allow the public to use the gym, but they can on the weekends and that. Just like they do in Gompers Park in the gym. My brother played in an organized basketball league in the park district at Gompers Park. Well, right here, they can have an organized youth and adult basketball league. It can be at night, adult floor hockey, volleyball league, all that right here in the school gym. And what does the school get? You're paying dues. They get money. They got to maintain it and that, but they're making more money than it costs to maintain, and it pumps money into the school. They have an auditorium here. They can do theatrical events, not only for the school, but private plays in Patrick Henry in their theatrical room. They have in here. I went and we did, I forget what play, but we did something around Christmas time, and I got my shot also. They had us all line up and go into the auditorium, which was the theatrical room. And they can show movies on the weekend in the auditorium. They can have things for kids in the auditorium, like movies on the weekend for families and that, to bring their kids and watch movies, and they can sell popcorn and hot dogs. Or they can have a Cubs watch party there in the school's auditorium. Truly. Because it has all the seats, and they put the big screen on the stage, and the auditorium just needs a speaker system. This used to be an old pub, and the Covingtons used to live above here. Mrs. Covington took me to a lot of Cubs games Mr. Covington worked in the construction field. But Mrs. Covington, the Covingtons were good to me, except one. But I still don't know if it was after he got beaten up by Mike Espinoza with the baseball bat over his head that he went off the reservation. So I don't know if the cognitive damage from the baseball bat, from the mental trauma, did it to him that he became perverted. But I don't know. But I did watch him, and he was getting beaten over the head and body with a baseball bat by a Hispanic kid who threw the brick through the window, who slammed my dad's head off the ground. Serious problem. And truly, no one treated. My brother didn't do anything to him afterwards. If we hazed him, he wouldn't have thought so bold. Truly, if we intimidated him, he wouldn't have felt so bold. But we didn't do any follow-up. We left him alone. And he felt since we are leaving him alone, he could repeat his action. And so he terrorized the neighborhood. Remember, I grew up during the civil rights. And every night, white people were getting accused of racism on TV constantly in the civil rights and, Selma and all that stuff going on. And you had all this stuff in the news and the newspapers, how horrible white people were. So white people were very sensitive about issues with minorities. More walking on eggshell type things. But we had Miguel Fivas, and he was good. He smoked a lot of weed. Truly, that's why. But he didn't do any harm. And no one, he hung out. I had Lulu, she's Hispanic, she's in my class, she works, she's a really good girl. But ask her. Nothing ever happened to them. But the whole point is, some people took advantage of the situation. You get that bad apple that knows like the race baiters like Al Sharpton and Jesse Jackson and others, that they can take advantage of the climate and to make incorrect accusations like against Budweiser being racist. And Budweiser got very scared of being charged to be racist. And so they gave him the distributorship and took it away from the Nystrom family. But they couldn't do anything because it was Budweiser's franchise and they could take it away by the clause. And they couldn't do anything. They lost the business overnight and it was given to Jesse Jackson's son. And they tried to figure out a lawyer and sue, but there's nothing they can do. It was in the contract that Budweiser could pull the distributorship. It was at their discretion. At their discretion. But the point is, he threatened to strike against to have black people to stop drinking Budweiser. Well, they got very scared because he said Budweiser was racist in its hiring practices. Do you know what I do? And go back. I did this. I went over after it went to Jesse Jackson, and I wanted to see pulling up hiring trends. And I didn't see the distributorship making any civic action to hire more black people. So what does that tell me? There wasn't discriminatory practices. That there was nothing to fix. And I know the family, and I never see them do anything discriminatory. It was all trumped up. He created leverage. Budweiser should have sued him for slander. But Budweiser they got very scared, civil rights movements and everything. They got very scared and didn't push back and sue for slander. So you have to push back. So there's got to be check and balance.